think we're good.
Καλησπέρα σας, παιδιά. Είμαστε εδώ σήμερα, θα κάνουμε κάτι διαφορετικά. Έχουμε εδώ Σωτήρη. Ο Σωτήρη είναι κατευθείαν από την Ελλάδα. So, πρέπει να κάνουμε αυτό το show θα το κάνουμε στα ελληνικά, γιατί ο Σωτήρης ναι, μόνο και μόνο, γιατί δεν μιλάει αγγλικά. So, λοιπόν, Σωτήρης, πώς είσαι, καλά?
Καλά είμαι, καλά.
Good. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ που είσαι εδώ, να σας καλέσουμε εδώ στην εκκλησία μας. Hey, I'm just kidding. Sam's I just had to do that, right? I mean,
that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, you like that?
I liked it.
It's like a Greek radio show.
I didn't know you were going to start off with that.
That's why I didn't want to say anything. So we're going to do that. We're going to have to do a Greek radio show, right?
Actually, not a bad idea. Because there's like a lot of yayadas and papudas who would
tune into something like that. Yeah. Some other people practice their Greek,
Exactly.
All right. So Sam is one of our parishioners. He's probably the best Greek dancer that we have in the parish, right? I've seen some.
I don't know. My cousin's pretty good.
Oh, okay. I've seen some photographs of you, man. You look pretty good. So, so we got to start off. Because I know you haven't hosted this show before, but we always begin with our whiskey of the week.
Yeah. Unpromoted whiskey of the week.
They're always unpromoted. That's right. It's just some different ones. You can tell that this one is we enjoy that, not in the church, but we've enjoyed that whiskey. The Balvenie, Terry and I have been many times to the Balvenie distillery. They have chocolate that they do. They have a chocolate pairing that they do. No. Oh, that's Dalwhinnie. Sorry, Balvenie. I'm getting my distilleries mixed up. But nice, smooth, entry-level Scotch. So for those of you that don't like some of those really peaty, strong Scotches, and you've sampled a couple of those with me, we're going to be doing that again. We're going to have another tasting coming up here pretty shortly. But this is a nice intro Scotch. So don't want to spend too much time on that. I do have one other thing that I have to show.
And I think this is from a viewer, right?
This is actually from a viewer. So found out that I was a pilot. So I found out that her husband is a pilot also, and he just got his seaplane rating. So he got a seaplane rating in Florida. They sent me a T-shirt. Congratulations. Yeah. So I'm hoping that this summer I'm going to be able to one up him there and get my seaplane rating too, and then figure out something else I'm going to do. So that's my showing off for tonight. We also kind of want to start off today, and I think Dimos is going to put it up there. It is Black History Month here in America, and so I figured that we wanted to start off just identifying that the Orthodox Church has, because again, one of the first Orthodox churches was in the region of Africa, and in Alexandria and Antioch, we had many of our schools. Our original seminaries and schools and theological schools were in Africa, specifically in Alexandria and Antioch, and in fact, Saint Athanasius and Saint Anthony the Great are from Egypt. Which is again in Africa. So I wanted to show this beautiful icon of the synaxis of the black saints of the Orthodox Church. And you can see right in the middle there, I don't know if you can read it necessarily, but we have probably the most predominant of the black saints. We have Saint Moses the Black.
Yes. Which we've talked about here previously.
And we have talked about him. Really a great story, kind of a Mary Magdalene story, where he starts off a really rough character. But
pirate, right?
Right. A marauder and a pirate, had a gang and everything like that. And he ends up repenting. And in the end, his own gang comes now to lay siege to the monastery. And he gives up his life protecting the monks from his own band of thieves, so to speak.
Right.
So great martyr story there. And if you look up, we have, in addition to that, we probably have at least 30 or 40 saints from that Africa region, whether it be Ethiopia, whether it be Alexandria, Antioch, Kenya. We have one where we now have one theological school now in Kenya that is actually being run by a good friend of mine who came to America to the Holy Cross Orthodox, the Holy Cross Seminary, specifically to get his PhD and his master's, so that he could go and open up a school in Kenya, and so that there can be homegrown priests in that
That's
area.
amazing.
Yeah, so
That's good work.
Yeah, it's very, very good work. It's really very cool. So I thought that would be kind of interesting for Black History Month from an Orthodox perspective. All right, what else we got?
We have a question from last week
Oh, okay.
that we promised we get back to. It was Trench's question number 3 from last week.
Okay.
Father
Romanidis.
helped bring the Orthodox Church info to the World Council of Churches to influence the other faiths, but regretted it since it hurt Orthodoxy. So why don't they get out knowing the damage, or don't they know the damage, or maybe allow it?
And I believe it's Trench, right?
Yes.
And Trench is correct. There has been some significant difficulties with the Orthodox Church in being a member of the World Council of Churches, and the problem that we've had there is that a lot of the social stands that many of the churches have been taken are a little rushed for the Orthodox Church, like the question of human sexuality, the question of ordaining women bishops, the question of transgender, the question of gay marriage in the church. So some of those societal things that are being now discussed and promoted within the World Council of Churches is a little bit difficult for the Orthodox Church. We've had the Russian Orthodox Church, which has actually separated themselves from the World Council of Churches. The Patriarch, Bartholomew, wants to retain a voice. He doesn't want to say, you know what, we don't want to have anything to do with you. He's a man that wants to be in dialogue, but he wants to be very cautious about his ecumenical approach, because he doesn't want people to view the Orthodox Church, or at least Constantinople, which is we're part of, right? He doesn't want us to be viewed that ecumenical means that we agree with whatever you say. So he wants to be very careful in that approach. So we have pulled ourselves out, we, saying the Orthodox Church, at least again, Russia certainly has, but let's talk about Constantinople, has pulled ourselves out of the World Council of Churches, except to remain in dialogue and to be a present member, but not necessarily active. I know that sounds kind of difficult, but it's always better to be in dialogue, right, than just to say, forget you, I don't want to talk to you.
Well, that circles back to not losing hope that people's opinions could change over time.
Absolutely. That's and Bartholomew is definitely, if nothing else, he's a man of hope. That's for sure. That's one really great thing.
All right, so we'll start with the first question for today. It's from Nick Carvelas. Hello, everyone. It's Nico. What is your opinion on those who refuse to get the vaccine, but rather base all their faith in the Lord? Are those who are receiving it doing something wrong?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have to be very, very, very careful, right? Don't test the Lord your God, right?
Yes.
So, you don't want to wear your faith like a badge. Like, come on, God, bring it on, right? Okay, as long as I believe in you, I'm protected. We had an instance in my previous church in Flint. The lady who came to church, she was devout, absolutely devout, and one day, halfway through liturgy, she died. Had a heart attack in church and died. And there's people who say, if I come into church, the church will protect me. Well, it didn't, right? I mean, things happen.
Right.
As we mentioned before, there's not like a force field around the church that says nothing can happen in our church. So we are a faith of Jesus Christ. We have been given science, right? And science is God-guided, right? Well, should be God-guided, right? I mean,
God enlightened us.
God enlightened us, right? I mean, there's some crazy science out there. But when we talk about normal science, that's given to us enlightenment by God. And so we should be receiving that. So absolutely, we should be receiving it. Those who say, I'm not receiving it because I will be protected by God, that's not a road that we tread on. We ask for God's protection, and it's up to Him about when we're called home, right?
Well, it's God's will.
It's God's will. That's
God's
right.
will.
That's right.
The next question is from Medieval Guitar. Separate from our daily formal prayer rule, would it be okay to sit in a comfortable chair with a prayer book and spend time praying, or would that be irrelevant?
Irreverent.
Irreverent. Thanks.
Well, so what do you think is the problem with the comfortable chair? I liked everything he said except for the comfortable chair. What's the problem with the comfortable chair?
They're too expensive.
Well, yes. Okay, yes. But what do you do when you get into a comfy Barco lounger?
Well, you take your eyes off of what you were doing and you start relaxing.
Keep going. And if a guy's sitting in a Barco lounger, he's going to
Fall asleep.
Yes. Exactly right.
Yes.
So Medieval Guitar, I am on with everything that you're saying, but the reality of the situation is, and I know for myself, I get myself in a nice chair, I open up a book, I'll read 2 pages, I'm going right to sleep. So you got to make yourself a little uncomfortable. All right, don't be too comfortable. Again, there is an ascetic portion of this, a little ascesis that has to be done. So I wouldn't be too comfortable. I don't want you to sit on a rock, right?
Right.
But at the same time, just make sure that you maintain yourself in an alert state so that you are not overtaken by sleep and slumber, as some of the monks say.
So be at attention. Okay. Okay. Spiro asks, what exactly is hell? Where is it? Do people actually go there if they've lived badly? Is it really eternal fire? And does it really exist?
Wow. Okay. So first off, Spiro, I'm gonna say there's a paper that I wrote on our resources section on our website. It's 4 or 5 pages where I speak at length about the idea of hell. And in there are typically 4 views of hell that have been brought forth by different Orthodox church fathers. I'm not talking about Orthodox saints, but Orthodox church fathers, okay? From the most common, which is you're going to burn in a lake of fire, right?
Yep.
Lake of fire,
Yep.
okay, all the way to that in the end, no banging, that in the end, everybody will be redeemed. So there's that whole span, right? So there's a thought that hell is the lake of fire. Hell is the absolute non-existence, that you just don't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. There is the idea that there is, and a lot of people don't realize this, but St. Mark of Ephesus talked about it. There's somewhat an Orthodox idea of purgatory where you are cleansed and then you are reconciled back to God. And then there's the fourth one I'm trying to remember now.
New York City.
New York, yes. Oh, New York City. So the answer is, we don't know what hell is. We don't think it's the Dante version of hell where there's this spiral of levels that you go through. We don't think that it's that. But to tell you the Orthodox Church believes that it is a lake of fire, that's not true, because there are other Orthodox Church fathers, very well respected, who say that is not necessarily the case. But we do believe that it is separation, and let me be clear about that. It is our willful separation from God. There is no place where God is not, right? God can't not be somewhere. So he is present in whatever you would call hell, all right? So we can't say, like, let's say you're God, okay, you look like a Greek god, but no. All right, but let's say you're God, and then I say, and I'm in hell, and you say, well, I am not going there. He is present everywhere, fills all things. But you willingly have turned yourself away from him. And so the thought of him is your hell. Torments you. Yeah, very good, very good. So that's what we can say, is that it is a willful abandonment of God, who is always with his arms outstretched, wanting then to embrace you.
Okay.
Endless traffic jam. That's my hell.
That's
Yeah. Mostly everyone else is. Okay, so Ethiopia asks.
bad Cipro. That's another bad Cipro.
Did you see Trench's question?
Yeah. You're right. Thank you. Trench asked. I posted an explanation on usury.
Oh, okay.
Last week. With the church's law is against all forms of interest loans and not just high interest loan, which I hope people will read. Will you change your mind?
Oh, did I read that?
Well, we usually don't read the actual comments or statements. We try to focus on the questions, since the show is called Orthodoxy Questions Answers. Although we appreciate statements and comments, and we actually encourage the conversations to happen in the comments chat section. But we'll take a look at that. Maybe get back to it.
So Trench, that would be my fault. I did not take a look at that. If that is active on there, Demos, and you see that, let me take a look at that. Let me digest that, and then we'll have that as our first comment up next.
Next week, yes.
Okay. Ethiopia asks, tell us about Lent. What is the difference between Catholic and Orthodox Lent?
Well, mainly it is in the style of the fast. The Catholic Church has scaled it back so that the observance of the fasting is on Friday, and even that observance allows fish. Okay. The Orthodox Church has maintained that beginning from Lent, that Kathara Deftera, right, that Clean Monday,
Kathari Deftera?
Kathari Deftera, right, that we have said that from that point on, no meat can be taken in. We define meat as flesh from any animal that has blood. Okay, fish have
blood.
Right? Fish have blood. Okay, so fish is not allowed. That's why on Palm Sunday in the Theotokos we have permission that we can actually have fish, right? Whereas the Catholic Church sees that fish as part of that fasting routine. Okay. Now I know that probably that during Holy Week the fast for us intensifies. Okay. Because it intensifies from the sense of increased prayer. And I think that's part, many times you've heard me, that's what we've really gotten away from. Lent is a triangle, right? So it's fasting, prayer, giving alms. We kind of forget about the other two because we focus really on fasting. So the real difference is in the manner in which the severity of the fast is held. Now, I got to say, and maybe you grew up different, but it wasn't until I went to seminary that I realized that you have to fast during Lent. I only thought you had to fast during Holy Week, because on Holy Monday, man, my mom would come and say, "All right, take everything out." And
the entirety of the 40 days.
You did it for the 40 days?
Well, I haven't done it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
not that disciplined.
So the Orthodox Church says you're supposed to do it, but we are, and again, I just want to speak for us as Greeks, I very, very rarely see, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I very rarely see us who carry the fast from Kathari Deftera all the way through then Holy Week. We're very good in Holy Week, but we're eating McDonald's burgers some.
I think it gives a good opportunity to pray more.
Yes.
Because when you're not eating, or when you're not eating the foods that you want to eat,
right,
you're like, oh, I'm suffering. God help me through this, and
that's really what it's meant
that really
for.
Sparks it. Yeah.
Yep. That same that you brought up about the medieval guitar brought up about the chair. It's the same kind of thing. The more food you eat, you're kind of like, oh man, I just want to go to sleep.
You're going
now.
into a food coma.
Food coma, right?
Yeah.
And you're not then in that prayerful state.
We also have a video
about food coma.
Fasting and Lent.
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay.
So look it up on our YouTube channel. We go into all the details about it.
But so other than that, we just really need to focus ourselves on all three elements of that of Great Lent, and not just on the fasting.
Okay. The next question is from Diane Lukopoulos. Would you please explain the Zeon in terms of symbolism?
Okay, so the Zeon that they're talking about, you were an altar boy, right?
I was little.
You were little.
I was little.
Okay, all right. So you remember the altar boys bringing the priest the hot water?
Yes.
Okay. So zesto είναι κάτι που είναι
Hot.
hot. Okay. So Zeon is the noun version of that. Okay. So Zeon is hot. So the prayer that is said for that is the warmth of the Holy Spirit. So when I hold that little whatever you want, that vessel, right? Oh, she's bringing the vessel. Okay. So when I hold that and I pour that into the cup, the words that I say are the warmth of the Holy Spirit. So the idea is that we have to water down the communion. That is a canon of the church. I am not allowed to offer you 100%
Straight up wine.
Straight up wine. Right.
Right.
Okay. And again, little known fact, the actual Greek word for wine is
Inos.
exactly right. That's what you see on the bottles.
Yes.
The mixture of water and wine is krasi, but we use it colloquially as, krasi. So that mixture is a canon law. And that's one of the ways that we make sure that mixture is done from a practical sense. So the symbolic sense is the warmth of the Holy Spirit, but the practical sense is to make sure that, okay. So there's the thiki, for the Zeon, okay, and so in that goes then the hot water, okay, and then from that then is poured into a cruciform manner then with the words of institution, which would be then warmth of the Holy Spirit.
We also have a video about the how is communion prepared.
Yes,
Also
right,
For that
right.
detail.
So again, everything in the church, symbolic and practical reason. We always have those two.
Thank you, Diane, for that question.
Yeah.
Definitely learned that. Okay. So Pablo asks, Father, I have a problem with hell. It's almost like I can have faith because of it, can't stay sane, and thought of anyone suffering eternally. Temporary justice is fine, but not everlasting. I think he's just reaching out for help.
Oh yeah,
You know?
right. And again, Pablo, the way that I would look at that is not to focus on the idea of hell. Okay, remember what I said. For the Orthodox, at its core, hell is a willing abandonment of God, that you have turned your face away from God. If you are looking at God, then the Orthodox believe that you will be enlightened by God, you will receive his light, and you will want to be like him, Christ-like, okay? And so that takes away that fear of hell. I don't want to say that I don't have a fear of hell, and I don't want to say that I think I'm a perfect person, but I am confident in my belief in God and that my life should glorify him, and then that gives me peace. That I don't think about hell, I think about heaven, right? So again, that can be demonic. This idea of putting you in that despair cycle, you're not good enough, you're going to hell, you're a terrible person, you really have doubts about God, therefore you don't believe in it. That's all demonic kind of stuff. So again, if you are turning your face to God, then you are looking towards the kingdom of heaven. That's what you got to focus on.
And don't lose hope. I think that's. I think that would really help him. Trench asked, I met a person that said they tried to solve a family matter with a priest, and the priest said to not contact them. Is that proper for a priest to say?
There's the second part.
Oh, and the second part is, since the priest said for the person to not talk to their family at all, is their issue.
All right, so, and again, not knowing the situation,
Right.
there's always a double side here. We were taught at seminary, it was drilled into our heads, stay in your lane. Okay, so what they meant by that was to not overreach what is your capability. Okay, so from taking the priest standpoint, if it is a question of mental health issue, if it is a question of severe spousal abuse, if it is a question of an illegal manner, then other agencies need to be involved, right? You know, I don't want to go, or the seminary tells me, do not go in there and play psychologist, don't play psychiatrist, don't play doctor. You're not any of those, okay? You are the spiritual guide. All right. So we've had, you know, and myself included, we've had a number of situations where we are what we would call triage, is that the family calls me and then I go over and I investigate the situation, I talk to them, but then I realize that this is much deeper than a spiritual problem. And at that point, I direct them to a marriage counselor, to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, to the law. My husband is beating me. Come and defend me from my husband. That's not my role, okay? So I'm going to insert myself improperly. So I'm taking it from the priest's perspective, all right? So Trench's question, is that the appropriate answer? It depends on what the backstory is. If he's already done that and the family is still contacting them, and trying to get him involved where he knows he is not the right person, then he is right.
Right.
Okay.
We got an email question.
Okay.
It's so the email question is from Beth G, and she says, and I quote, "Got a fun question for the priest. Y'all recently talked about Walter Matthau, but no mention of Jack Lemmon. What's your favorite Lemmon film?"
Jack Lemmon has to be, Are
you thinking of Prisoner of Second Avenue?
no, the one where he dresses up as a dame.
Oh, Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot.
Yeah.
I love that movie. That's a good. Some Like It Hot.
I guess I'm too young.
To
know.
Oh, great. You've seen Grumpy Old Men.
Grumpy Old Man?
Grumpy Old Men.
Which one is he?
The other
taller
grumpy,
or the shorter?
The shorter one.
The shorter? It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
So he's done some serious roles too, right?
Oh yeah, he's done a mix. He's done Missing. He's probably most people probably remember him now because of his Walter Matthau films, but in his own right, he did some great comedies. The Apartment was just mentioned.
The Apartment, yes, right.
Terra, and that's an excellent film.
But
that's The Prisoner of Second Avenue. Yeah. Or no.
But wait a minute.
No, that's the Out of Towners. Yes, there we go.
But am I confusing? I said Some Like It Hot. Am I confusing Tony Curtis with Jack Lemmon, or
No,
it was?
that was Jack Lemmon
It was
and
Jack
Tony
Lemmon.
Curtis.
Okay, all right. So
Keep the movie questions coming. They entertain me.
not everybody's perfect.
Everybody's perfect.
So Trench's third question, I think, Father, you had answered it
Okay.
just from the comment from Pablo that heaven and hell are the same place, but it's the presence of God is.
The presence of God
Yeah.
is everywhere. It's
Right.
it's us who create kind of our hell. Again, I'm not denying the reality of hell. I don't want to make it look like we're denying that, but to fear hell is not our belief system. We do not believe in God because we fear him. We believe in God because we love him and that he loves us.
Okay. Aaron 88205 asks, Father, in your opinion, how often should one call upon the Theotokos and the saints? We know it's important in our faith, but just how often should we do so?
As often as you want. As often as you want.
Yeah.
As long as we remember that we don't pray to her, we pray through her. She offers an intercessory prayer for us. We don't worship her, we venerate her, we do not worship her. She is not the fourth member of the Holy Trinity. So we just have to be very careful because, as Orthodox, when we talk about the Theotokos, sometimes the words we use make it seem like we worship her. Okay, and we have to be very, very clear on that. But there is no limit on the number of times that we can ask the Lady Theotokos to pray with us to her. Who is closer to Christ? What mortal is closer to Christ than the mother? Right.
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 Right. Jack asks, Would you be able to talk about the efforts of the Oriental, Coptic, Armenian, Syriac, etc., and Eastern Orthodox reunion? Are their sacraments valid, and can we join together?
So there's been with the Orthodox, with the Oriental churches, the Coptic churches. There are movements now. I know that we've had some theological disparities there, like Monothelitism. The natures of Christ. And there was a time when we were not in communion with those churches. However, now some of that is changing, and at least the latest guidance that I got here was that we can commune them in our church. So we still have some theological differences, but we are not taking them out of communion with us.
Okay.
And again, speaking for America, right?
Right. Aaron 88205 asks a second question, and you may. If someone in their life didn't really observe the fast completely, does the church believe that the individual would be affected on the day of judgment?
No, because fasting is a tool. It's not part of salvation. It's part of salvation, but it is not salvific in its own right. You don't get saved because you fast, all right? You get saved because it increases your prayer life. It increases your desire to give alms and to help the poor. Those are the things that save you, all right? And again, we want to be careful with the word works and all that, but fasting as a tool helps you to do salvific work, but in of itself, it is not salvific. So no, you are not going to be judged on your...
To someone's house for dinner, you're not gonna say, no, maybe you can push the fast out a day, instead of
All right,
Wednesday.
so look, the canons, this is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Good that you brought that up. The canons of church are funny like that. If you are invited over to the house, right? You are not supposed to be a rude guest, right? And say no. You go and you eat what's put in front of you. The canons of the church are fine with that.
But you eat little.
But you don't go and take 4 helpings of the big pork roast that's in front of you, right? Number one. Number two, you don't invite yourself to the house. Hey, man, they're having pork roast, man. Hey, Sam, kind of give me a call and invite me over because then I'm over at your house. You can't plan this stuff out, okay? And you are supposed to, once you go to that house and you enjoy the meal, privately you say to your host, I really enjoyed the meal. It was very beautiful, but, I am fasting. That lets them know that next time they shouldn't do that. So you want to let them know that you are observing the fast, but you do it, privately, just on the side. So as long as you're not trying to set it up,
Okay.
I have that problem all the time during Lent because Greek Agathis, they want to invite me over to the house and show me how good that they can cook a chicken or arni or souvlaki or whatever they've got, or pitas, and I'm like, oh, people, that I am fasting now.
I'll take your place.
Yes, so I'll have you as my subdeacon come over and eat the food for me.
My yaya does make the best pita. I'm just throwing that out there.
I'll put it on my list first.
Okay. Trench asks the third question. Science has turned into a religion to have faith in what some say, while other scientists have opposite views while ignored. So the church must ignore the phrase science, more like the political fad says. Can you agree?
Well, we can't. Am I missing this? We can't ignore science.
We can't ignore science, but I think it's more that do you agree, Dimo, that media ignores certain scientists? And
yes, that you're right, that the media plays favorites with, let's say, more agnostic or atheistic science and does not necessarily support as much the idea that science and religion are one.
Right. Or that some political supporters of certain scientists are because the media deems them as like a enemy against their thoughts.
Science and the way that the media presents it, a lot of the times can be very easily mixed up or confused because it enters the realm of politics.
Yes.
And anything that enters the realm of politics is going to end up walking out on the other side dirty.
Right.
And unfortunately, I've seen times where if the media is interviewing a scientist or a doctor who has a spiritual side to him or her, meaning that they are Christian and they say that, they tend to become a little ridiculed, and they're kind of condescending that they're not as good a scientist because they have this goofy belief in a God. So so the media does what's the word I'm looking for, that they
obfuscate, they push a narrative.
Yeah, they push a narrative. I think that's the best way to say
It
it.
doesn't matter if it's right or left. It's just what the media is. That's how they make money.
But in the end, science is the ongoing revelation of God. So we have God first, and God, through his love, over time, reveals things to us that we discover through science. So you can't separate the two, because science is God-given.
I like that. Dr. Strange has a question. I know you're not Catholics, but I read that one of the popes was dug out of his grave and put on trial by another pope. How could this happen if the popes are infallible?
Well, the Orthodox Church doesn't support infallibility of a single person. We support infallibility of a synodal, that when all bishops get together and they make a vote. So we don't support infallibility. So we don't agree with that concept. So in that sense, we would say the premise that you start from is wrong. He says, how can this happen if the Pope is infallible? We don't believe the premise. We don't believe that a man is infallible. So there's nothing really to say on that.
Let me ask this question.
All right.
In the congregation of a holy synod, if all bishops are deceived, yet they all agree on something and it becomes church dogma, what happens then?
Well, we've in the 7 ecumenical councils that we have had, they have always been unanimous vote. And so we've never had that situation. So I don't know if we can explore that probability because we don't have any evidence of it. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, Christ says, then I am among them. So we don't believe, and that the Holy Spirit, and that I will send you the Comforter. We don't believe in a gathering of that many bishops that all bishops will be deceived. We can see 1 bishop or 2 bishops being deceived as mortal men, but that synodal power, the awesomeness of that synod of all those bishops, the Holy Spirit resides there, and not all of them. So, for example, we have the classic case of Arianism. We have the priest Arius, right? Mm-hmm. Arius, who was deceived, right? Okay, but it was St. Nicholas, filled with the Holy Spirit, that decked him and fought against him. So we cannot ever visualize that scenario ever happening where all are deceived.
That's a good answer.
Real quick, there's been a bit of a back and forth about, it's a strange topic for near Valentine's Day, about Halloween. And I know we addressed it during Halloween, but just to clarify, what is our stance on Halloween?
Our stance on Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, we do not celebrate Halloween. Okay. So we, in my parishes, what I've done is I've celebrated, and I've copied what some other parishes have done, which is they have a harvest day. We just celebrate the harvest. But the pagan idea of Halloween and the origin of what that stands for, we don't have really any room for that in the Orthodox faith. So we do not celebrate it in that sense.
But is it something that A, the church condemns, or B, that people that are Orthodox, are they allowed to celebrate it? It's obviously, to that answer, we don't celebrate in the church, but are people allowed to celebrate it at home?
So we do not support our parishioners entertaining the pagan origins of Halloween. Okay, if they want to go to a party and they want to dress up and they want to put on costumes. We don't have any problem with that, but we call it a harvest party. We call it a costume party. But if there is clearly the idea that we are celebrating now this pagan holiday in its sense, then that's what we don't agree with. Wearing a devil
Right.
costume and drinking fake blood and all
Right.
that. We don't support any of that idea.
And I think that directly answers Trench's next question. So I'm gonna move on to Teresa Canham. She asks, are there any good Orthodox movies?
Any good Orthodox movies?
Yeah.
Okay, see, Terry and Demos are the movie people. Oh,
Are you thinking of Solaris?
no. Really, really good. I'm looking it up right
It's
now.
about I'll
I
say
believe
it.
there's.
It's a Russian monk that. But while Father's looking it up, I have another message from Presbytera about Halloween, saying that we just condemn the scary costumes, but we still give a nod to Halloween.
In what way though? What is the nod?
What is the nod?
Changing the name from Halloween to Harvest Party.
Oh, changing the name from
Oh,
Halloween
to
Harvest
harvest party. Okay. Okay. The
The island.
The island.
There's no way they're going to be able to read that.
okay, no, but they can see the island, right?
No, there's no way.
You can't see. Okay, so the movie is called. It's a really great movie
2006.
about
2006.
a Russian monk on an island. Okay, and it's the story. In fact, it takes place during World War II, and he was actually he was actually a soldier, right, in the Russian War.
He was on the ship.
He was on the ship, and then he gets stranded on the island, and
Well, he's given a command to shoot the captain, I think, or shoot somebody, and he lives with he orders
You're
them
not
to-
hearing. Yeah.
oh, no, okay, yeah. So what I would say is look that up, a 2006 film, The Island, and that's a very, very good. It's a very good Orthodox film.
And I know that a lot of our viewers aren't necessarily Greek, but there is there's a film that we recently used in our baptism video, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. That's technically Orthodox.
Yeah,
It's more exposure than most Americans get to Orthodoxy in general.
It is,
I think
but
it's more cultural.
yeah,
than,
it's
than-
very
than
cultural.
religious.
And the second movie has this bizarre premise that doesn't even make any sense. I mean, my marriage isn't valid because the priest didn't sign the document. I mean, that's just goofiness. I mean, it kind of makes fun of Orthodoxy. So, culturally speaking, the first movie is fun. I really enjoyed it. It looks like my family, but the second movie kind of went off the deep end.
It's hard to follow up with an original like that with sequels.
right,
It's
it is,
very
yeah.
hard. Effie asked.
Oh,
she was-
did you have another one? Did you have another movie or no? That was okay.
Well, there was one. Maybe it's coming out with Aios Porfirios, or maybe it was Paisios, but I think that's in the works.
If that's in the works, oh,
Yeah.
that would be an awesome.
So one of the two.
We were talking about at one point doing a couple of movie related videos. So instead of just making it biblical, we'll start with trying to take a look at movies that are Orthodox.
that have an Orthodox
Yeah.
flavor to them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Effie, she was a little confused about your answer about the priest helping about people. So she asked, out to other avenues for help because priests are able to take classes, for example, family and marriage, to coincide with spiritual care. Meaning, you take classes to nurture a family.
We
to
did.
guide.
We took pastoral care classes. Okay, but even in that pastoral care class, they said don't overreach. Okay, psychology is its own profession. psychiatry is its own profession. Medical and mental health care is its own profession. Okay, the seminary in no way prepares you for that. It prepares you for triage. It prepares you to recognize what those symptoms are. But when you try to treat that, when you try to treat those deficiencies, you are beyond your reach. And the seminary is very clear about staying within your reach.
We do have Orthodox priests that are also psychologists/psychiatrists, and so can't you send a
Now that's yes. So what Presbyter is saying there is that we do have now trained priests as psychologists, as marriage counselors, as psychologists, but they had that profession before they became ordained. This is a new phenomenon. The phenomenon where I already have a profession and now I become a priest. And Presbyter is right in that sense. And in fact, in Detroit, we had several of those priests. And so when I would get somebody that I would be, I could see that I wasn't the right person, I would say, call Father X, because he is a trained marriage counselor. But this is not the training that priests were receiving in the seminary. This is a phenomenon where they already have that profession, and on top of that, they have become ordained as priests. So that's a special case.
Maybe would it be best if a priest is not able to refer to a psychiatrist or to a psychologist, for that person to do some findings on their own, bring it up to the priest and ask for their blessing to see that professional?
One more time, say that again.
So if the priest is not doesn't have the knowledge or wherewithal to guide someone
right
who's having a problem or a difficulty, would it behoove that person to go out and find that person and bring it up with their spiritual father?
Absolutely. And the spiritual father is responsible to make good recommendations. That the priest should do. The priest has to have a cadre of people who can help in those issues, so that when you come to me and you say, hey, I got this issue,
right,
and I can't solve it, here is where you should go. Now, the priest should be ready with that answer for sure. I'll give you a good example of a dangerous situation. We had a situation many years back, where women were coming to this particular priest because they had suffered abortions. And they were coming for counseling in terms of, how do I proceed with this? And his answer to them were, you're dirty, you're sinful, you've done something wrong, you're not going to be part of this church. Now, is that the kind of advice we should be giving women? I'm not saying we support abortion, of course we don't. But, that priest did not have at all pastoral care. And we want to be very careful about how we respond to people. And when you are trained in psychology and psychiatry and things like that, mental health, then you know how to frame certain things so that you're not making the situation worse. But at the same time, you're getting to the root of what the issues are.
Like Jesus eating at Matthew's house.
Yes, that's right. Jesus eating at Matthew's house and saying, look what he's doing, eating with a sinner. What?
Aaron 88205 just wants your thoughts on his feeling that some branches of Orthodoxy make it seem like if you don't fast, it's a bad thing. And he recalls one visiting priest that said, if we don't fast, we betray Christ.
And again, this is, we certainly don't want to get into, bashing priests, right? I mean, this is not what it's about, okay? And again, remember, Κάθε παπά με το ράσο του, né? Right? Okay, so, every priest has got their own thing. Some are harsh, some are a little too liberal. You got some like me who want to stay that middle path. You're always going to find that difference. But we don't want to turn fasting into a salvific act. Okay? Is fasting important? Yes. The Orthodox Church agrees. Fasting is important. Jesus Christ said, yes, you should do that. He did it in the desert. He fasted. Okay, so if we want to be Christ-like, we fast. It's something that we do. How we fast is a very personal thing between the person and their priest, okay? And but so to make general statements about if you don't fast, if you don't fast, you're going to hell, or if you don't fast, you can't be saved. No. Should we fast? Absolutely. That universally we can say.
Okay.
Yes.
NT channel asks, the Greek and the Ethiopian Orthodox communion, are they the same? And if it is, why did the Ethiopian Orthodox hide the communion?
Orthodox is Orthodox. I mean, the sacramental rites are the same. Okay. So Holy Communion is Holy Communion, marriage is marriage, so on and so forth. When they say hide the communion, the only thing I can think of is traditionally now, when we come around for the great entrance, right? Okay, I'm holding the vessels, right? Okay.
Yep.
I walk in, I set them on the altar, I am supposed to close the doors. And then the doors don't open until now I bring it out and say metaphobos to Theu, right? So
Right.
that's the way it's supposed to be. Excuse me. Very, very few parishes today do that. And in fact, with the icon screen that we have in this church, I can't do that, right? Because even if I close the doors,
It's all see-through.
It's all
Yeah.
see-through. So, but in those very old churches, right, and like the ones that I grew up in Tarpon Springs, that iconostasi is solid. And then there's a curtain that's drawn across. If they're talking about that kind of hiding, that is Orthodox practice. Every church should be doing that. When I do it during the pre-sanctified liturgies during Lent to remind the people that this is our tradition. But in Tarpon Springs, they still do that. At that point, they'll close the curtains and they'll hide the communion. So that is not an Ethiopian thing. If this is what we're talking about, this is an Orthodox thing, but we have become somewhat lax in our American practices.
Okay. Just because we're short on time, Trench, we'll have to get to your questions to allow some other people to get some questions of theirs in. Let's see. Elena, you asked something about a vegan question. We did not get it.
I've already
Do you
sent
have it?
She, I just sent her the message. So we'll wait for her.
Okay.
But
Is it, do vegetarians go to heaven? Is that what it is?
it was a vegan question, but in the meantime, we got some more some movie suggestions.
Ayos Nectarios. That's the one
Yeah.
that was in. And then there's one on Netflix called Faith, Hope, and Love.
No.
So
There's something I
should check that
I
out.
think, okay. Hey, by the way, just on the vegan thing, I got to say, okay, please, people, please, okay, fasting during Lent means more than macaronadas,
Right.
rizi, garidas, right? It means more than just rice and noodles and shrimp, okay? I mean, there are a ton of excellent vegetarian meals. Terry has become like a vegetarian star now. During Lent, man, I eat some of the best meals ever. And they're really, really good. And you know what? Yes, we buy the Boca Burger and we buy the, what is the other thing called?
the Impossible Burger.
No, the Morning Star stuff. We buy the Morning Star stuff, and she'll mix that up, and it is, and we make some really great meals, and we actually maintain our weight during Lent. We're not eating 4 pounds of pasta. That's the other thing. I used to hate that at the seminary. Whoop, that's a Freudian slip. But you'd have these guys, who during the regular course of the year, they'd have about this much food, right? And they'd have, there'd be some
Right.
meat and stuff like that. And then Lent would show up, and then all of a sudden they'd have a bowl of rice and garidas about this big. And they're eating 3 times as much food, but it's rice, it's shrimp, I'm fasting. I mean, come on, people,
Teresa also says there's a nice Greek wedding scene in Shirley Valentine. And if you're going to go by wedding scenes, I'll also add to the list The Guns of Navarone, which takes place in Greece.
yes.
No.
And the James Bond film, For Your Eyes Only.
For Your Eyes Only, right? Which is got Mount Athos in it, right?
yeah.
Yes, the baskets of Mount Athos.
Huh? Fiddler, well, I don't think the Orthodox are exactly... They go to they go to an Orthodox church, but I don't think the Orthodox are exactly portrayed in a good light in that film.
Oh, oh yeah, I think that should.
So Matthew Dorio asked, I was once told that candles lit in the narthex were also an echo of very early times when Christians would light candles in front of the catacombs to inform the priest how much bread was needed for communion. Can you confirm this?
Well, okay, maybe, I wasn't there in the catacombs, but the way that we learned it was the reason for the candles in the catacombs was they were dark, and the catacombs lit the gospel reading so they could read. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what the candles were for, was to light it because they were in the dark. Now,
They may have not also been persecuted,
oh yeah, they had to. They would do it over the saints of the tombs. That was the altar, was the
Right.
the tomb of the saint. All right, and you're right. They were being persecuted. But I'm sure that holding up the candle, the one guy said, "Hey, bring the candle over here so I can see if we got enough bread." See that happening too.
We got the vegan question.
Okay.
Eleni says, I have been vegan for over a decade. I am ready for communion every Sunday. My mother says that this type of fasting does not count, does it?
So in the case of veganism, I made a verb of that now, or a
Right.
noun. Then what you are called to do is to limit your portions. Okay, so portion control becomes what's important. All right, so what you normally ate, cut that back. All right, so just to say that you are vegan, ergo you are ready for communion, is not necessarily orthodox. Okay, so you have to figure out what is your ascesi. What is your sacrifice? What is that you're doing? If it's portion control, if you're cutting down on the number of portions, if you've increased your prayer life, or if you have increased your almsgiving, then you can say that you have prepared for communion. But just saying you're a vegan does not necessarily prepare you for communion.
Vinsanity997 asks, I've never seen a Greek Orthodox service before, but
Tune in on Sunday.
probably would help if I could speak Greek.
No.
But there are plenty of live streams where it's just all English.
It's all English.
Yeah.
I mean, we do here because we still have we still have a lot of aliens that
right,
live here.
and
I do
I'm
chanting,
chanting, right. I'm
and
chanting
you're
up there.
You're chanting in English, and
when I have
Lori's
my phone up, I have the text both in Greek and in English, and the translation's a little off, but they're very similar.
They're very similar, right?
And what you would hear in English is basically what you would hear in Greek. So
Right, and and I try to keep the liturgies, at least here. I try to keep them at least 70 to 80% English.
what I did notice is for the Matins, we do it mostly in Greek because the Yayadis are here earlier.
Right. Again, the bishop said, when I asked him, what language should I do? The bishop said, turn around, see who's there, and do the language they're comfortable with. So you're right. With the Matins, it's all the Yayadis. That's what they want to hear. But I do more and more English as we move forward in the liturgy because there's more people who speak
Right.
in English.
We're going to have to pull a prank on you where one of the mornings you turn around, there are nothing but Klingons.
And then I'll have
Dressed
to...
as Klingons.
So David Rigo asks, hi, I'm Roman Catholic. Why should I convert to Orthodoxy? I'm also not Greek.
Okay, well, first off, let's start off with you don't have to be Greek, okay?
Yeah.
Terry is not Greek, but she is Orthodox, okay? I can't use your example because pretty much you are the Greek family, all right? But we have a large percentage of our parish where the spouse is not Greek, so take that off your list right away. Again, I know the moniker Greek Orthodox, the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church, or the Assumption Greek Orthodox Church. It has that word in Greek. You got to get that out of your head, though. Outside of the big cities like Chicago, New York, L.A., most of those parishes you're going to find speak predominantly English.
I believe it's in Tennessee, a church led by Father Moses. And he's African American.
Oh, okay.
And it's
All
a
right.
Greek Orthodox church.
Yeah, there you go.
And
Right.
I've seen some of those videos on YouTube. Look it up, trust me. And in the church, there's icones all over the church of saints from all over the world.
Phew, wow, that's
this is-
very. Yeah, I like.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah,
We
we're
definitely don't have to be Greek.
Right, we're definitely becoming much more Orthodox. But he says the first part,
The conversion.
Yeah. So again, and this is again where my kind of middle of the road shows. If you have found Christ, then there's no reason for me to make you Orthodox. Okay. So again, the question of why should I be Orthodox? We as Orthodox believe that we are the fullness of the faith, that we have the entire Christian faith, from the liturgical aspect, from the theological aspect, from the pastoral aspect, so all the sacramental aspect. We feel that we are the fullness of that. That would be the only reason that I would say is this is where you're going to find the fullness. But that does not mean that because you are Catholic, you are outside of salvation. If you have met Jesus Christ there, then I would say that's where you stay.
Matthew Sharf asks a question. Can you recommend any Orthodox books for those who deal with addiction and loneliness?
I've already uploaded the
You have?
the
Okay.
reading list, but specifically for that topic, do you have a suggestion, Father?
Addictions
for
and
addiction,
loneliness.
there is some very good books about isolationism and desolation, things like that. But I don't have those books off of the top of my head, so I need to go up to the library and see what those books are.
So next week, at the beginning of our show, join us, and we'll read off some of those.
I'll read
books.
off. I'll read off some of those books specifically for that topic.
I'd also recommend we have a video called "Addiction and Faith," which might help
I did that.
with Father Mike.
Oh, with Father Mike. Yes, Father Michael Marcantoni, and he'd also be a great resource too. So I'll ask him.
So please endure and wait till next week. Let's see. If they can't wait.
Yeah, if you can't wait, email us at agocny@gmail
Or actually, what we'll do is we'll put Father Michael's phone number, and as a contact point.
okay.
You can if I give it to you, you can do that.
Yeah, I can list it. Bogdan has an interesting question.
Let's see. You read it?
I'm going to do my best. Is correct in Eastern Orthodoxy this a doctrinal point of the creed from the Father through the Son?
Oh, so he's talking about the Filioque. The Filioque was a huge point of contention between the Orthodox and Catholic churches. Originally, the way the creed reads is. Stay there.
In the meantime, Sam,
Yes.
what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
I always feel like I get to ask that question when I go out barbecues or neighborhood events or, striking up a conversation.
So you hear that
But-
he goes to barbecues and events.
Yeah. That's what I definitely do.
All right. Okay. So, and again, the patriarchal card. So reading again the Nicene Creed, right from what we read each Sunday, and in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the creator of life, who proceeds from the Father, who together with the Father and Son is worshiped. Okay. And so this is the way that the creed was read by both the East and the Western churches all the way through, even after the schism, and was changed by the Catholic Church to say, and in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the creator of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son is worshiped and glorified. The Orthodox Church had a problem with that because then it led to what the Orthodox Church called double procession, meaning that the Holy Spirit does not emanate from the Father, it emanates from the two of them. So he's subordinate, right? Mm-hmm. So he's kind of like a second lieutenant, all right? So the Orthodox Church said, no, that's not true. In order for this to be a Trinitarian doctrine, then each one of them are homoousion, they're of one essence. So the Son was called the Filioque, which literally translates to and the Son. The Orthodox Church rejected that, And now the Catholic Church, through Pope Benedict and Pope Francis, allows the creed to be read either in the Orthodox fashion or in the Catholic fashion. So the Catholic Church, to some extent, has backed off of that idea of the filioque.
As in regards to Father Mike, is it still his 585 number?
Well, let me just
Yeah.
see my phone there, and then I will.
So we have a question from Gloria. This is going to be kind of hard. You're looking for an email. I'm going to be reading off a question from Gloria, who
Let's
asks,
see if you can answer it.
Yeah, okay. Why can't women go to Mount Athos? So my answer would be, to buy Father some time.
Okay.
Would be so that the monks that are living there are not tempted.
Thank you, Sam, for a very illumined answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. We have, we don't ever want to say that it is because women are not equal to men, or they're subservient, or they're a help and not an equal person. What you said is exactly right, and that I've heard from the monks on Mount Athos when we were there, is that they become a distraction. You're absolutely right. Now, actually, we've had two. What's that? To the monks, right? Because what? A temptation. Okay, all right, temptation. But there has been two women, at least that we know of, on the Holy Mountain. Number one, the Theotokos, because it's right. She's the patron saint, right? And the other one was the Queen of England during the war. Weren't she? Oh,
From the Nazis.
from the Nazis. Okay.
Nobody heard that.
Oh, so and so the second one was that during the Second World War, the monks of Mount Athos were hiding Jewish women to protect them from being taken by the Nazis.
No, great question. Great question.
Why don't we circle back to a few of the questions that we skipped before we close? For instance, Trench has a question earlier, which I thought was a little interesting, because I haven't heard much about this. Why is the Greek Church siding with organizations against the nuclear family on GOARCH? And shouldn't it be for like the Russians are?
What was that?
The Greek Church siding with organizations against the nuclear family, essentially father, mother, children.
Well, yeah, but I
On
can't.
GoArch,
Yeah.
the website.
So we can.
On GoArch, where's
Yeah. So you know what, Trench, we'll research that question as well for next week. But I wanted to address it because it seemed like a serious question.
Now we did have Archbishop Elpida Flores, who marched in the Black Lives Matter protest last year. We did have that. If there are elements in there that are affiliated with the non-nuclear family, then death by association, right? Meaning that if he's there and somebody holds up a sign and says,
Defund the police.
defund the police, and actually that sign was there. That was the picture that kind of got him in trouble, because he was marching for the cause of human rights, of equal justice, but the picture that was taken of him, there was a defund the police, and somebody immediately said, "Oh, well, why is the Archbishop now defunding the police?" So because it is really today impossible to march with protesters and not get caught up in something else, because nothing is pure anymore, right? I mean, the revolution that we saw on the White House is comprised of many different people, right? And the same thing with Black Lives Matter march or something like that. You can't say that that's one homogenous group and everybody has the exact same belief. No, there's going to be some people in there that say support the police, defund the police, this, that. So, and the Orthodox answer cannot be, and that's why we praise him for his courage. The Orthodox answer can't be, well, because I might get associated, I'm not going to do anything. So I'm just going to sit in my ivory tower and do nothing. That can't be the stance of the Orthodox Church.
John Manuel asks, can you explain monothelitism? Why was that declared a heresy by the Ecumenical Council, and how can it affect our understanding of Christ? Monothelism?
Monothelism.
Monothelitism?
Well,
It depends
so,
on.
so monotheos, but
Yeah, but that's not theolicism. John, I haven't heard that term before. Li. Type in Lisi.
It's a theological doctrine in Christianity that holds Christ as having only one will. The doctrine is thus contrary to Diothelitism, a
thelema,
Thelema.
Yeah.
monothelema. Okay, monothelema.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right. Right. No, that's one nature. This is one will, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay.
All right. So we believe that Christ has two natures, right? He is obviously a human nature and a divine nature.
Right.
All right. But he can only have one will because that will is directed towards the Father. He can't. That was the original problem with the tree of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay, because Adam and Eve only had one will, and that was to do the will of God. That's all that they knew. And so this is why now Christ is called the new Adam, because this is only one will. We now, through sin and through this knowledge of good and evil, we have a will that we can turn away from God, right? We can say, I don't want to believe in God, right? There is no God. I have that will. Christ does not have that. He can't. It's not that he doesn't want it, but his will is, because he is of one essence with the Father, he can't be anything else but aligned with the will of the Father.
So there's some more history that we have to research, because he states that there was some heretical statements from the Ecumenical Council on that.
Oh, so I'll have to. Why was it declared a heresy by the Ecumenical Council, and how kind of? Okay, all right.
So we'll have to get back to you on that.
I like the fact that people are starting to ask some very, very deep questions.
Yeah.
Every time we're forced to actually have to do a little bit of additional research, it's always a chance to have deeper understanding and
Yeah, and we
journey.
and we don't want to just make this up on site here, so that's
Right,
not the
right.
idea either.
especially with poor Lenny being stuck in a 8 p.m. curfew in Montreal.
Yeah.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. curfew.
Wow, holy
man.
smokes! Trudeau's really.
So we have a question from KRD1129. He was wondering why you can't see the bottom half of the crucifix behind the altar in many Orthodox churches, and I think that depends on the time of the year.
The bottom half of
The
the.
bottom of the hat, so because we got the altar
Yeah,
table,
right.
and you can't see the bottom portion below the knees if you're sitting back here.
Yeah, but that's just because the altar's in the way. I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
There's no real. What? What?
Well, sightline. From-
Okay. All right. The altar obstructs the view. Okay.
Depending on your perspective.
It's depending on your perspective.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we put Jesus up on a higher stand, you'd be able to see him. It's just that the stand is just, and that's where we place it. But we're not trying to hide it. It's just
Right.
where we've placed it, the altar obstructs the view. Can I say it that way?
Where's stilts next time?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Look, because from the loft up there, right? You should
Yes,
be able to see
you
it.
can see it.
be
You
able
can
to see it.
and I've seen it.
But yeah,
So-
there's no reason why you can't see it. Well, no theological reason why you're not allowed to see it.
All right, so Strati asks, when is the church going to open properly? When is the church going to properly, historically, and accurately recognize and celebrate Christmas, the birth of baby Jesus, on or around its true date? I hear many things as to why it's celebrated on December 25th, with the main argument being that we, church fathers, wanted to attract pagans to our faith, and religion lined up Christmas close to the winter solstice. This needs to be reconciled. Thank you for your time and God bless.
Okay, and he's correct. I mean, that's what the church fathers did. Is we always is because, I mean, many of the places that we were evangelizing to, including Greece, were pagan. I mean,
Right.
they were pagan lands. Okay, the Orthodox Church, different from, let's say, the Protestant model, was not to tell them throw everything away and do it our way. It was, let us show you what you're doing in the fullness of Christ. Okay, so we taught them how this is revealed in Christ, and so on top of what they had, we are saying here is how it's properly expressed. All right, and I think that's a good way to not assimilate people and say, we want you to be all one way. We want you to hold on to your cultural heritages, but we want you to understand it in the light of Christ. Okay, so now that we're not pagan, he's right. If we wanted to, we could move Christmas back to where historically it would have happened. There's nothing wrong with that. We could do that, but I think that's going to be an uphill battle. Could you imagine all the stores having to now
Right,
say no?
right.
And in fact, you'd probably do the reverse, right? Because now what you'd have is people celebrating Christmas in, I don't know, May?
Australia celebrates it this summer.
In the summer?
Oh, yeah,
Because of the,
winter,
right?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you know what's going to happen? People are then going to celebrate it again in December, but they're going to celebrate it a pagan way. It will do even more damage because they're going to want to celebrate it again because they're going to want to do something in the middle of winter, right?
Right.
So they're going to have a
that's-
Yule festival or something like
That's an
that.
interesting perspective.
So
Take a look at Easter. I mean, if there are times where our Easter is like a couple of weeks, even a month after the Catholic Easter, and no Easter decorations anywhere to be bought.
no.
Yeah, they never hold on that long.
right.
But that is if decorations are an important aspect of celebrating the holiday properly.
Look, the Orthodox Church can't even get rid of the Easter bunny, for Pete's sake. I mean, on Agape Sunday, right, what do we do immediately after the service? We go and the little kids hunt for Easter eggs, right? I mean, come on.
That's Saint Easter Bunny to you.
That's Saint Easter Bunny. I mean, some of these things are, they're hard to overcome, but, are you raising your kids now to believe in the Easter Bunny, right, and to start worshiping Easter eggs? No, of course not.
No.
They have fun. They find a couple of eggs, right?
My kid's 1 year old, so
Yeah, well,
he,
okay,
he
but,
won't understand.
but I'm sure you're going to be one of those parents that you're going to tell Christina to go hide eggs.
Yes.
So that Ephthemios can go find eggs.
Adarsh Kunal asks, thank you for this interesting video. And he's in the Indian Orthodox Church. The tradition has been for women to stand on the right and for men to stand on the left.
Oh yeah.
I have a
think it's-
video on that too.
For years we had that. I mean, that really didn't stop in the United States. Greeks were huge on that,
Right.
And the Russians still are very, very tight on that. The Romanians are still tight on that. Our practice here in America, at least within the Greek Archdiocese, stopped in the 70s. We were doing it all the way through the 60s, but it stopped in the 70s. I got to make a commentary here. I don't want to totally blast that and say it's terrible, because, I mean, look, you've attended, not to be scandalous here, but you've attended, back in the day, a Orthodox Easter, right? And those young ladies, remember yourself when you were single, those young ladies, how did they dress for Orthodox Easter when they came?
Well,
Nice, right?
They dress to attract.
They dress to attract, right? High heels, stockings, short skirts, right? Okay. And when you were sitting, and I'm thinking of myself when I was growing up, you're sitting and those girls are in front of you and the priest is talking, who are you listening to? Who are you watching?
Right.
The Easter parade.
Right, the Easter parade, right.
That's
You're
what
hearing
Easter
every
follows.
word.
Goes back to why the monks don't allow women onto
So,
ayonoros.
but when all you're looking at, is my ugly bald head in front of you, you're a little more focused on the icons and the priest and everything like that. So I don't want to totally blow that out of the water, so there was some meaning to that, so we don't want to, totally, I mean, we're not going to
Right.
go back to that,
Right.
but
There was a follow-up about Mount Athos, if nuns are allowed on Mount Athos.
as far as I know, there are no convents on Mount Athos.
JG asks, Father Maggos, is it okay to go to an old calendarist Orthodox theology college for a bachelor's degree in Orthodox theology? Not for the priesthood master's degree, just for a bachelor's.
Absolutely. There's, they're going to, you have to understand that an old calendarist education is going to be probably a little more ascetical and a little bit more, I don't want to say harsher, that's not the right word, but a little bit more what we would call the akrivia of the church, the strictness of the church. But the theology that you're going to learn is the same as the theology you're going to learn at our seminary. But again, it's going to be applied with a greater strictness in the old calendar church than it would, let's say, at Holy Cross Seminary.
So we have, I think this will be a nice final question to address. Diane asks specifically for likes and shares of this video, and we definitely encourage that. So if you enjoy our show every single week, we're here every Thursday at 7 p.m. to 8 and a half-ish.
Yeah.
Please like the video. It'll tell YouTube that we're producing good quality, and share it to anybody that you wish. We're welcoming of every question and every faith here. It's an open door.
Absolutely. And Sam, again, hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you.
You were
Thank you.
very relaxed, man. Good host, great
You were the
host.
professional.
Man, I don't know, but those questions, man, they're starting to. Man, I'm going to
doing
do
your
my
homework.
homework
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
right? I'm running
Don't worry.
out.
Next week we're gonna ask what is the best Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon film.
And Jack
We're gonna
Lemmon
combine
film.
them.
So
One or two.
And shockingly, I always forget that they were both in JFK because it's like the grumpy old men and the odd couple appear in JFK. It's the most random thing.
Christina didn't ask one question. I thought for sure Christina was going to ask.
She's working.
Oh, she's working. That's right. I forgot. She's working. Okay. So, all right. Well, I think we're good.
Yes.
All right.
All
And
right, fantastic.
I seriously want to consider that. I think that some kind of ελληνική πρόγραμμα, να το κάνουμε να έχουμε κάτι διαλόγο μαζί μας,
Γίνεται και αυτό.
Ναι.
Αυτό ισχύει.
Να μιλήσουμε για φαγητό,
Φαγητά, τα πάντα.
τα πάντα, λίγο ποτό,
Oh, yeah. Why
okay.
not?
All right.
Why not?
Edaxi. Well, one last thing. People have been asking for links to the videos that are brought up in during the service. Obviously, since I'm live streaming, searching the videos, adding the links are difficult during the live stream. But if you'd like tomorrow, I'll take some time and try to add them in the description of this video. So come back and take a look there.
Great. And I know I've got my homework cut out for me. I think, Timos, you've got those questions.
Yes.
And again, until next Thursday, thank you very, very much for all the really, really great questions.
Yes, thank you for attending.
And I know we'll see you back here again.